Welcome to Building the Future. I'm your host, Kevin Horick. You can check out the radio version of the show every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern on WDJY 99.1 in Atlanta. We also air on a podcasting network in Los Angeles called the 405 Media. There's a TV version of the show that airs on KMVT 15 in Silicon Valley at 8 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday nights. Both versions of the show air in other states. For these show times, plus past episodes, please visit the show's website at buildingthefutureshow.com. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com. Join me at the 10th Annual Media Excellence Awards on January 18th in Beverly Hills, California. The attendees and I will be celebrating innovation and leadership in technology and entertainment. There are 20 award categories with 1,000 nominees. These awards honor those who are creating groundbreaking technology to better our lives and celebrate the hard work, determination, and brilliance in the leadership within the companies which create the new world we live in today. I will be recording nominees and winners at the awards. For tickets and more information, go to MediaXAwards.com. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Alexia Buclet. She's the Design Operations Director and UX Designer at Minsight. Alexia, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm excited to have you on the show. You have quite a diverse background, and you've done some really cool stuff. But maybe before we kind of get into what you're up to now, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with where you grew up.
Okay. I was born and raised in Paris, in France.
Okay.
And I did all my studies there. So basically, I'm a totally French girl.
Sure. So what did you take in university?
I studied psychology.
Okay.
At first, I wanted to be a clinical psychologist, as everybody knows, to help people.
Sure.
But then I discovered that I could mix my two passions, psychology and emerging technologies. So I did a master's degree in cognitive psychology. And now I'm a UX designer working on those technology, and I'm so happy.
Sure. So what kind of got you passionate about technology at an early age?
My father loved Apple.
Okay.
Macintosh by the time.
Sure.
So we had, iBook, iMac, and everything in the 90s. And I loved computers at first, and then video games emerged. So I was like on Nintendo, PlayStation. I liked all those technologies, and then I realized that it was really the future,
Sure.
and that I could be part of it.
No, I think that's awesome. So you graduate university. Walk me and the listener kind of through your career up until what you guys are doing now at Minsight.
Okay, at first I did an internship at Ubisoft and then worked there.
Okay.
To work mainly on Just Dance games.
Okay.
And some cool Kinect feature on Ghost Recon Future Soldier.
Okay.
And it was really cool because I was there by when the Kinect was released and when the Wii U was released. So it was new interaction, with the touch for the Wii U and the not synchronized gameplay.
Sure.
So it was really interesting, and Kinect 2 with all the movement, you were able to interact with just your body, and it was really new.
Okay. Interesting.
So I worked on this. Then I worked in a company called Neolan. It was for marketing software. After Ubisoft, I wanted something totally different. I wanted to taste something else and see if I liked it. It was a great experience because we also were acquired by Adobe.
Nice.
So I had the chance to work with Adobe colleagues, and it was awesome. I had the chance to go to San Francisco to attend Adobe experience design event.
Nice.
So I met really nice people, and it was really passionate. And then a next colleague at Ubisoft asked me if I was interested in robotics.
Okay.
And I accepted a job at Aldebaran Robotics now called SoftBank Robotics after Japanese acquisition.
Nice.
There I worked on robotics, humanoid robots, Now and Pepper. I don't know if you heard of them.
Yeah, sure.
Pepper is a big one with a tablet in front of it, and
Sure.
Now is a small one.
Yep.
And then it was really new interfaces because it's a robot. You don't have a mouse. You don't have regular inputs to interact with them. So it was all about the body language, the verbal communication, more natural, and it was really interesting. I really loved that experience. But robots for me are too far from now to be used by everyone.
Interesting.
It's really the beginning, and I was quite frustrated by the fact that I couldn't work for everyone.
Okay, interesting.
in a sense. And then I discovered virtual reality.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, now I want to test this technology.
That's awesome.
And I met Thomas Nigro, who is a co-founder with Soraya Jaber of Opuscope developing Minsight.
Okay.
And now I'm design operations director and UX designer there. And we're working on the virtual, mixed, and augmented reality software.
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to explain the difference between mixed, virtual, and everything.
That was going to be my next question to you. So yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so virtual reality is when you're totally disconnected from the real world. You have a headset on your eyes and hand controllers, and you don't know what is happening around you in the real reality. You are totally immersed in another reality. The mixed reality is with currently only on HoloLens by Microsoft.
Right.
You have the headset map your reality, your surrounding. It knows that a table is there, a wall is there, the floor is there, so it can integrate 3D models or pictures or a lot of content, but contextually in your environment. So it's really an intelligent, if I can say that,
Sure,
technology, comparing to augmented reality, which is more information on the reality, but not that much in the context. It doesn't know where you are. Like for example, we always use the Pokemon Go example.
Sure.
It's just a Pokemon on your camera. It doesn't know if there's a wall, if it can go behind it. The HoloLens, you can really walk through different spaces.
Sure.
And it knows that if you put something behind the wall, you go behind the wall and the thing will be there. So it's really, really smart.
No, that's really cool. So I know you guys are kind of launching Minsight kind of at the end of the year, correct?
The beginning of next year.
Next year. Okay. No, that's cool. So I don't know how much you can say or not really say about kind of what you guys are building. But the thing that I kind of find fascinating about the whole space is it's a totally different vertical for kind of designers and developers to play in, right? And you've done tons of stuff in the space with huge kind of games and consoles in the past. And I'm curious to know what's similar and different about kind of designing for this new kind of virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality space compared to just like traditional kind of console.
Liking video games really helped me because you have the 3D things that you don't have on your computer or your smartphone. So it's helpful because interfaces, UI user interfaces in video games are integrated, not always, but sometimes they are integrated in the 3D world of the video game.
Sure.
So we're trying to do something like this in Minsight. So Minsight is really for creative professionals to design 3D experiences without any development skills.
Okay.
So you can import, you put the headset on and you build your 3D space directly in the headset. You can import 3D models, pictures, video, sound, and then make it put interaction in with them for your visitor to discover a new world, your own world, really easily. It's what you see is what you get software.
Okay.
And to do that, we want to build really an intuitive interface for the creator to be for them to have something really easy and not just a 2D interface just put in a 3D world. We really want something integrated and intelligent as the HoloLens technology. And for that, 3D interfaces in video games are quite relevant because you can have really 3D interactions. You know, you have your for the HoloLens your hand, and with virtual reality like HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, or headset like this, or Windows Mixed Reality headsets. What I was saying. Sorry.
No. It's good. I guess the thing is, okay, so I use your tool to build my kind of world or game, and then what do I do with it once I have something built? Do I publish it to the web? Can I publish it to consoles? Like, how does that work?
Exactly. You publish it, and then your visitor can. It's cross-platform software. So if you have a HTC Vive, you can see it on the HoloLens and see it in every device, every devices. So you just publish it, and then there's another app called Minsight Viewer, and then your visitor can use it to go in your 3D experience.
Okay. No, that's very cool. So for somebody that has never kind of played in the space, because I think for most people it's kind of new. I know like Google and Apple are kind of just starting to really get into it heavily, and I know like Oculus got bought by Facebook a couple of years ago, and you know, obviously you mentioned like Microsoft and a bunch of other companies have been playing in this space for a few years, but I think it's actually starting to become like a real thing for maybe kind of the average person, and not just kind of like nerds like the like you and I for lack of a better term. But so I'm curious to know then, what do people that have never really kind of done design for these new mediums, what do they need to kind of know going in? Or is it a little bit of trial and error, or kind of what advice do you kind of give people when they're looking to start and get into this space?
Personally, I try to rely on theoretical usability guidelines.
Okay.
For example, you have an interaction, you must have a sign to signify the user that they can do something, and a feedback to signify the user that they did something and that the machine understood it. So it works for every technology. But then you have all the tried and errors.
Sure.
Because nobody uses DALL-E. So you don't have, the standards, the user habits. You don't really know how people will use it, why. We can presume, but we don't know.
Sure.
It's so new, so we clearly don't know. So we have to try things, make user tests to see if people can use it easily. It's both. You have to abstract you from the simple mouse click and touch devices, but use those guidelines like sign and feedback that work for everything.
Sure. No, that makes sense. And I think the interesting for me about the space is it very much seems like you literally need the headset. You need to like literally try some stuff and then actually like render it out and try it yourself, and then get, like you said, other people's feedback around that, right? Because some of the VR stuff and that I've tried in kind of the past can be really good kind of really terrible and everywhere in between, right? And it's such a new space and whatnot. But I'm curious to know when the user loads up your guys' software, is it kind of more like a 3D kind of space? Is it more like a Photoshop type interface, or what does the interface kind of look like?
It's like Photoshop, but not how can I say that? Photoshop is quite complicated to use if you
Sure.
have no training. You have to, if you want to use all the features, because
Sure.
you know if you just want to crop some picture, you can do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if
You probably
if you
wouldn't use
want,
Photoshop, right?
yeah, yeah. So if you want to really use the software, which is so powerful, you really have to get trained to it.
Okay.
With our software, our goal is really for you in 2 minutes you can use every features.
Wow.
You're just in your own reality, as we
Oh,
say, design your own reality, and you have a menu,
okay.
dynamic because it moves with you, because you can move with the HoloLens or HTC Vive.
So
And so
you need a headset to use the software. Is that
yeah,
correct?
it's
Okay.
a
Okay.
yeah, it's a headset-first software. So you
Interesting.
really need the software, because the problem with virtual reality is if you build your experience on your computer, then you don't have a sense of scale. You need to build on your computer and then put the cask on, the
Right.
headset on. Oh no, that's not the size I wanted, and then you go back to the computer. With our software, you everything is on the right scale, so really know if you put it there, it will be there with the right size you decided, and there's no surprise. It's really what you see is what you get at
Okay.
the end.
Interesting. So obviously so you're wearing the headset. You're interacting with the software with the headset, a keyboard and
Yeah.
mouse as well. Is that fair to say?
No,
No. Okay.
you
Interesting.
for the HoloLens, it's your hand with a air tap gesture.
Okay.
There's a bunch of gesture on the HoloLens with your hand. You can click on buttons with the hair tap. It's your fingers. It's hard without
Sure. Yeah.
showing
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. That's yeah. I know totally. Like through audio
But
only, it's
you
hard to
see on
describe
the
this stuff.
internet, it's
Sure.
not an issue. But there's this gesture, and with the virtual reality headsets, you have hand controllers with touchpad, thumbstick, and buttons, trigger. So you can interact with the interface like this, and you don't have a mouse or and you can say in the virtual reality you can see your hand controllers in virtual, so you know where your hands are.
No, that's cool. So, and then you're basically using your hands
Yeah,
in and the headset to like create an entire experience for somebody
yeah,
else.
yes, that's right.
That's actually really cool. So, I'm curious. Then, is this stuff gonna run on Windows and the Mac, or just Windows kind of coming out of the gate?
It will run on Windows mixed reality headsets,
Okay.
like Lenovo, Acer. I don't know the pronunciation in English
Yeah,
of
that's
those
fine. Yeah, yeah.
brands.
Sure.
Um, and so it will be available on those headsets, just like for the HTC Vive
Okay.
and Oculus Rift. And we are already available on HoloLens for private beta.
Sure.
So we will be available on every headset. That's our goal is really to make the collaboration possible, because I didn't speak about that, but we also will provide a feature when you can collaborate with someone with another headset in another place in the world.
Okay.
So you can go in the same 3D experience and build it together, make some feedback if you're not working on it, but you have to give some feedback to the creator. You can go into the experience with him or her to experience it before the release,
No, that
and with
no.
different accents.
Okay, interesting. So it's kind of, well, this is like an oversimplification, but something similar like how Google Docs does it, where you can be in editing the same document at the same time, but obviously you guys are doing it in the kind of augmented reality space.
Yeah, totally.
That's really cool. And then, so how does that kind of work then? So like, say you and I build a little game or something, and then we publish it out, we post it online, and then it's basically just like kind of promoting any other kind of experience that I've built, whether it's a game or anything like that.
What do you mean by, you mean if it's an advertisement?
Well, like I publish it out, right, to the web.
Yeah.
And then obviously like anybody can go and play it, and I can and get feedback in the thing. Like you mentioned kind of how they give feedback.
Yes. There's analytics
Okay.
for the creator and for us to improve the software and for the creator to improve their experience. So you can have data to make the experience even better.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so you can kind of see where they've kind of stumbled in the experience.
Yeah, for example, if something is not used in your experience, you can say, oh, there's a problem with that. Maybe I didn't design it in the right way. So you can change it after this information.
Okay, and then how are you guys planning on kind of monetizing the platform?
I can't say a lot about that, but
Okay, no,
there
that's
will
fine.
be a monthly pricing. It's a subscription. Yeah,
Subscription, yeah.
complicated.
No, fair enough.
Subscription, yes.
No, that's okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm curious then, are you guys, I know it's kind of still early on, like, are you guys looking at ever publishing it out to kind of Android and iOS, or is that still kind of not really in the cards just because of the hardware software limitation there?
We're focusing on headset first,
Okay.
but we are not close to this idea. It's too early to say, but
Okay.
it's possible.
No, that's kind of what I figured, because like obviously the desktop is way more powerful, right? And using a
Yeah.
headset with that. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So I'm curious then, did you guys kind of raise a bunch of money to fund the company, or kind of how did you guys kind of decide to, get this thing going and actually like fund this? Because it's obviously you've been at this for kind of months, if not longer, actually building this thing.
The idea emerged 2 years ago with Thomas and Soraya friendship.
Okay.
And the company is 1 year and a half old. I'm working there. I've been working there for a year now. And we made fundraising in March,
Okay.
I think. And now we are talking with different VC for a new fundraising.
Okay. No, that's cool. Like it's crazy to me and really cool that you guys could go from kind of an idea to basically launch in 2 years, something
Yeah.
that's so like what you guys are building is pretty complicated, right? And
Yeah.
it's
Really.
not an easy task, right? Like it's and the easier it is for the user to actually use the software, the harder it is for kind of the design and development team. Is that fair to say in this case?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Make things simple is so hard.
I know.
Especially in emerging technologies, so difficult.
Yeah, because there's nothing to really go back and say, oh, I really like what they did here and here and here.
No.
Like you guys are kind of blazing the trail, right?
Yeah, but that's the challenge. That's why it's so excited. So
Sure. No, I think that's great. So I'm curious then to know, you guys are kind of about to launch this thing kind of early in the new year. How big is kind of the team that's working on this thing?
currently, we have three developers,
Okay.
confirmed and senior developers,
Okay.
one intern developer.
Okay.
There's me, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
An art director,
Okay.
because it's nice to have a easy interface, but if it's ugly, you don't want to use it.
Yeah, that's
So
very
we
true.
have
Yeah.
a great colleague to take care of the aesthetic of the software. And we have Thomas and Soraya, CEO and CTO,
Sure.
and a project manager.
Oh, so you guys have
So
a pretty
it's
small
a
team to
yeah,
accomplish like a lot, right? In a short
yeah,
period of time.
totally.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So, but I also think that's kind of inspiring to people too, right? That you don't necessarily need this like huge team to build kind of complex software.
No, we don't need a huge team, but that's true that it's a lot, especially for developers. It's so hard to develop on those platforms because it's new, so it's quite complicated.
Sure.
But yeah, a small team is easier because the communication is easier, and we have a really good vibe in the team, so it's really cool.
No, that's great. So, what languages are you guys using, kind of on the development side, to actually build the platform? Do you know?
To talk to each other daily, we use French because we are all French right
Sure.
now.
Yeah.
But all our documents and GitLab development issues to work on the project are in English.
Okay. And then, what programming languages are you guys using?
They are using Unity.
I'm always curious because I think Unity's kind of gained a lot of popularity over the last few
Yeah,
years. I think at least the first game I can think of that everybody's probably heard of at this point that was built with Unity is the new Mario Run for kind of Android iOS. So like
yeah,
big companies are using Unity to actually put their own games cross-platform, right? And I
yeah,
get that you guys aren't playing in the smartphone space right now, but I think like Unity works kind of across all the different platforms and mediums, and they're really supporting all these different headsets and types,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
it's really cool. It's really useful for us because it's it's used for video games, but in the virtual and mixed reality, you don't have a choice. You have to have 3D. So we company usually use Unity or Unreal Engine. So,
sure. So for people that um, are looking to kind of maybe get into kind of video games or virtual reality or augmented reality, what advice do you kind of give to them, whether they're maybe like coming out of school or thinking about going to school? Like, what should they look for, if they want a career in this kind of industry?
for developers, I would say video game school
Okay.
and engineering, computer engineering.
Okay.
For UX design, I still think my background is really great because the psychology is really helpful. To design for humans, you must know humans.
Sure.
So psychology studies really give you that. So it's great. And then I don't think there's a lot of specialized school for this because it's so new.
Sure.
But you just have to be passionate and motivated.
Sure.
And then if you know your job for I don't know, for a website, you just have to adapt and to jump and try and try again to then build strong skill and test a lot of experiences. What is so helpful is to I always test experiences in every devices. When something is released, I try it to see how other company design their interfaces, how they interact with their product and everything. It's really important, even not only in the virtual reality, but for everything. I think to test as much as possible experiences is really really important, and to communicate with the community of your job. I follow a lot of UX designer on Twitter, for example, or in Slack group, and it's really really interesting.
No, that's great. So I'm curious, do you know how to actually like code? Did you ever learn that, or do you think that you kind of need to know how to code to be a UX kind of designer?
It's a huge discussion, but for me, I don't code,
Okay.
and in a certain way, I want to understand developers. I talk a lot with developers because they develop, so I have to design relevant and possible interfaces. So
Sure.
I need to understand their issues, their constraints, but I don't want to know how to code because if I do that, I will think like a developer. I won't think from the user point of view. My brain will be shaped in a development thing, and I will think like a developer. And I think one of my strengths is not to know that. So for me, UX designer shouldn't know how to deeply code. You can prototype things and know a little bit and to understand those issues, but I don't think you should be a really development professional.
No, interesting, because there's so many different kind of good and bad opinions on the space, right? And
Yeah,
I think you need to figure out kind of your skill set and kind of what works for you. And to your point though, I think is super important is whether if you don't understand how to code, you need to work heavily with the developers to make sure that what you're designing is buildable in the medium
yeah.
that they're building in. So I think that's really great. So but I am a bit curious to dive into kind of your design process a little bit more. Do How do you kind of start off with an idea? Do you start kind of whiteboarding? Do you kind of just go into a prototyping tool, or kind of how do you start off with kind of a brand new kind of idea or concept for something you're working on?
I will talk for my current company because it depends all the companies where if it's big, if it's small, you don't do the same thing. But currently, I talk first of all. I talk with Soraya and Thomas to
Okay.
know which feature we want to offer to the user,
Okay.
and we build. I don't know how to say it in English, but requirements. Is that the
Okay.
right
Yeah. 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 That
requirements?
makes yeah.
And then my job is to design this functionality to integrate it in the software to make it homogeneous, relevant. So for this, I use mockup.
Okay.
I'm using it's surprising, but I'm using PowerPoint to mockup because
Interesting.
there are a lot of mockup tools which are great. But for example, if I use Balsamic is so great, but for website and
Mm-hmm.
mobile interfaces, it's not that much adapted to my current job. So I use PowerPoint because PowerPoint is really powerful if you know how to use it. You can make a lot of effects and some little 3D.
Sure. No, yeah, totally.
So for me, it's the best tool, and I built a document with UX requirements explaining how to interact with things, what are the sound, the text, really the a complete document. Before that, I speak with developers because, as I was saying, I need to build something possible. So first, I have a first idea, then I explain it to them, and we see if it's working, and if they have ideas, because I'm not the only one capable of ideas. So I like also to ask if somebody what they think of it, and maybe my idea will give them another idea which is better. But my job is to frame it, to design it in the right way after this brainstorm, and then they code the feature.
Sure.
And when it's done, I follow the development to be sure everything is okay, because sometimes you're developing and you say, "Ah, no, I was wrong. It is not possible because of this." So you have to meet halfway to
Sure.
build a
Yeah.
nice interface, but with the development possibility. And then I test it to see if everything is right. If my if my design works, because you design something, and if you don't test it, you don't really know in this industry what it will be like. So you need to test it, and it's rare, but sometimes you're like, oh no, that was a wrong idea.
Sure.
And then we totally change. So it's a lot of iteration, but it's really cool. I really like it. It's like, it sounds really difficult, but it's really nice.
No, that's great. I love kind of learning about kind of how other people do things and kind of their process. But I'm curious to know, you kind of mentioned audio. How much are you involved in actually kind of creating, like obviously you're doing kind of the design and kind of interaction, but
Yeah.
how much of that are you actually adding audio? Or is that part of your job or not really? Because like something as simple as like I click a button, do you control the sound or work with somebody to work on what it sounds like when you interact with certain elements?
I don't create sound, but I say here we need to have sound to signify this or to feedback this.
Okay.
So I say we need a simple sound or long sound or short sound, which type of sound. And in big companies, you see with the sound designer.
Sure.
Unfortunately, we don't have a sound designer yet. So we go on. I listen to a lot of sounds in libraries
Sure.
to buy them. So I have a lot of audio jungle and then the sound all day. So I never did this before, but it's nice.
Okay.
But I think with a sound designer, it would be better in the future. But it's really nice like this.
Sure, and I guess it just kind of adds another layer of complexity when you're designing kind of an interface, right? Because now you have this other layer of kind of sound effects related to what the user's interacting with.
Yeah. And the nice thing with HoloLens and virtual reality is that the sound is specialized.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the right term
No,
in
that makes
English.
sense. Yeah.
Okay. And so if you want to attract the user's attention in a direction, you can use sound as well for them to look in the right direction, for example. So the sound is really important in 3D. You need to think about it, even if you are not used to it.
Sure. No, but I think that's really good advice, though, right? Because I think as more and more mediums kind of become up and coming and more popular, designers need to think about this stuff, right? And
Yeah.
I think just kind of having people like yourself that is kind of at the forefront of this stuff, talking about this stuff and kind of, what's good and bad about kind of being first in these industries, it is fascinating to me, at least, right? Because I think majority of people and majority of designers haven't really had the opportunity to play with some of the stuff that you get to play with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So no, that makes a lot of sense. But we're coming to the end of the show, so maybe let's close with mentioning where people can get more information about yourself and Minsight.
For Minsight, they can go to minsight.co. And about me, you can follow me on Twitter at Alexia Buclet, or on Medium. I wrote my 2 first articles about psychology to become a UX designer and how to build a great process to integrate UX design in a startup. So it's the same, Alexia Buclet on Medium. So I will be glad to share ideas and feedback with the community.
No, perfect. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your night.
Thank you very much for the interview. It was a nice time.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Please visit the show's website at buildingthefutureshow.com. Also check us out on Facebook at Building the Future Show and follow us on Twitter at Building Show. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.